Hello RPG fans and welcome back to the kingdom. This video marks my first entry of doing video game reviews where I review the games that I have played and or done challenge runs of and go over the game from a challenge run perspective where I give my opinion if this game is worth doing challenge runs of. If you are new to the challenge run genre or term, let me help you out. Challenge runs usually consist of self-imposed rules or conditions that add extra difficulty to the gameplay, such as restricting certain features of the game while usually playing on the game's hardest difficulty available. For further examples, you can check out the description below for the challenge runs that I have done. I will not be going over the game's graphics, the audio, music, or the storyline. Additionally, all opinions are my own and are not swayed by anyone or anything. It is perfectly okay to have different opinions because after all, this review is based on what I experienced with my own knowledge and what I experienced going through the game. And plus, we're all here because we love video games, so let's just keep it that simple. I think when reviewing from a challenge runner's perspective, it is important to go over what the game is and not what it could be. So let's jump into how we're going to review the game. The game will automatically start off at a 10 out of 10, and we are going to subtract points based on what we find throughout the gameplay. The first two options are the platform that it's on, and the game difficulty options can either keep a point or subtract a point. And the next four options can either keep 2 points or subtract 2 points. And these options are game mechanics, customization options, variety of challenges, and replayability. And now you know what we're doing, so let's get to it. Reviewing Final Fantasy I Pixel Remastered from a challenge run perspective. Final Fantasy I Pixel Remastered is available on several platforms such as Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, PC, and the App Store. And we will be doing the review on the PC version. And while it might not be necessary to review the actual platform that the game is on, it is going to be pretty important for this particular case because if you are new to the challenge run community, you might not know about this, but there is a difference between the PC version and the Nintendo Switch version, and that would be the additional boost options located in the configuration section of the menu. These boost options are not available on the PC version. I think that is due to the fact that there's so many devices that have macro capability or auto click, auto moving, some type of macro that you could do this anyway, but it still doesn't really make sense as to why it wasn't included in the first place. So as far as reviewing the game for the platform that it's on for the PC, this is going to receive a -1 point. Due to the fact that there's additional challenge run capabilities and options on the other platforms that's not available for PC. Next up is the game difficulty options. When starting a new game, there are no options available on the starting screen to change the difficulty to easy, normal, hard, very hard, etc. And going through the options in the menu for PC, there's no options to make the game harder either. And while no one is at fault for this since the original Final Fantasy I did come out in 1987, I really don't want to have any bias towards Final Fantasy I because it is the Final Fantasy that brought my channel to life, so to speak. But I am still going to give this a -1 for game difficulty options. So with a total score of 8 out of 10 right now, let's go ahead and go into the next category, game mechanics. While the game mechanics of this game might seem pretty straightforward, once you dive a little bit deeper into what is actually available for every class, it starts to get more in depth. And a good example of this is the warriors. They go from warrior to knight and they gain the ability to start casting low-level white magic. And hence, the multi-class is starting. Other classes gain some additional benefits too, like the black mage going into black wizard, white mage going into white wizard, red mage going into red wizard. They start to be able to gain the ability to use higher level spells. And on top of the game mechanics, let's talk about the combat system. Considering how old this game is, I think the combat system is pretty well done. Everyone has their normal attack command, and the mages have a magic command. Now with the magic command, you start off with only one spell. And as you level up, you can then buy more spells from the black or white magic shop. But you cannot use those spells infinitely. They take a certain number of charges per group of magic. So for example, black mages start off with level 1 magic. They can cast fire, thunder, or focus. Now they might only have one spell available until you buy more level 1 magic from the shop, but as you level up, you can start to cast more spells from that group over a longer period of time. You'll start off with maybe being able to cast it 3 times before you need to rest or use an ether to restore your magic, etc. You can eventually cast up to 9 before you need to refill it. It's a progressive system and it's pretty well done. And additionally, in combat, everyone has an item command. So by selecting items, you can scroll through all the items that you have in your inventory, such as high potions, anything that you can possibly use to heal yourself or cure a status effect, you can use in combat, as well as using some items that even have certain abilities. And you can also change your gear in combat as well. So that's a pretty cool little feature in case you're encountering some type of immune mob. And now on to non-combat game mechanics. So in every single town, there's usually going to be an inn, weaponsmith, armorsmith, white magic shop, black magic shop, and a item shop. Now, none of these shops are required at all in the game to use any of their services or this service to resurrect your party members. You don't have to use any of these if you don't want to. You could make the game as hard or as easy as you want. And so, from a challenge run perspective, this is a very good thing. And so, from a game mechanics perspective, this game gets both points for combat as well as non-combat. And the next category is customization options. This is going to be broken out into 2 different areas. One is going to be menuing and non-menuing. So first, let's go over the menuing customization options. So looking over the items, there's nothing that we can do in here to customize our character or the way we play the game. And same with magic, there's nothing that we can do to customize how we play the game other than just not learning magic, but that would have to be more of a game mechanic thing as well as combat. In terms of equipping, now this does change the way how we play the game. We can either equip everyone with the best of their gear available, or we can just simply remove everything and probably get one-shotted by a chicken. But, you know, to each his own. None of the other options in the menu change the game from a difficulty or challenge run perspective. So as far as menuing for me, for what the game is, I'm gonna have to go ahead and keep the point. And as for non-menuing, I think this is a little bit shorter of a list. I tried to think long and hard about the options available to us, and the only things that I could really think of is changing the order of the party for customization, maybe changing the names at the very beginning of the game, although I guess both of these would still be considered menu options. And the last thing would be changing our class. So upgrading the class from the default class up to the Ascended class via Bahamut. I'm not going to go into details to help prevent spoilers if you haven't played this before, but those are really the only 3 options that I can think of. If you think of any more, feel free to let me know in the comments below. But as for non-menuing customization, I'm going to have to go ahead and take away the point for this. And my 5th category is variety of challenges. I broke this up into 2 subcategories: the types of challenge runs from a viewer perspective as well as a runner's perspective, and boss fights / special encounters. So let's start off with the first subcategory. With Final Fantasy I, there are dozens and dozens and dozens of ways to play the game from a challenge run perspective. Now, all of those, or most of them, are probably not going to be enjoyable as a viewer. For example, if I just decide to unequip a shield on all 4 characters but not have any other restrictions, that's probably not going to make for a very entertaining playthrough. It's also probably not going to provide a really good challenge run experience as the runner. In order to even make something like that viable from a viewer perspective, you need to do a lot of video editing, which doesn't really seem feasible. And so it's usually good to stack on a lot of different types of rules or restrictions that you impose upon yourself to try and make a challenge run exactly that. more challenging. I decided to make a short list of 20 different types of challenge runs that I would be able to do for Final Fantasy I. Some of them I've already done, some of them I haven't. About half are not going to be very good from a viewer perspective, and it would be pretty boring from a challenge run perspective. But given with what we have to work with in the game and considering when this game came out, I am still going to give the point for the types of challenge runs. And on to the next subcategory, boss fights and special encounters. In my opinion, there's only 3 fights in this entire game that can potentially be hard. One of them is the Lich, and this is particularly due to the fact of what your party composition is. If you are an all melee party, you can potentially have a very tough time on this fight. If you don't know what I'm referring to, go ahead and watch my Final Fantasy I Monks video and you can see exactly what I'm referring to. I'm not going to mention it here to try and prevent a little bit of spoilers. The second boss fight is a rare encounter, not really a special encounter because it's not a super boss, but the War Mech over in the Flying Fortress that could potentially destroy your party depending on what level you are when you fight it. And the most powerful boss of the game is, of course, the final boss, Chaos. This boss really tests everything that you've learned and done throughout the entire game and wraps it all up into one fight. He will test your gear, he will test your party composition, he will test your item usage, he will test your healing versus damage output and intake. It is a very, very tough fight. And so for the boss fights and special encounters, unfortunately, I would not give the point for it because of the lack of tough bosses from a challenge run perspective. And this brings us to the last but certainly not the least category, replayability. These 2 potential points is going to be an all or nothing type of category. Replayability, I feel, is mostly based on the individual person and what kind of ideas the said person has come up with to make the game challenging enough to do another challenge run. So my personal take on Final Fantasy I Pixel Remastered is there is plenty of potential for replayability. You have 6 different classes to choose from. You can mix and match or do a 4-job fiesta of whatever you want. You can use equipment, you cannot use equipment, you can heal, you cannot heal, magic only, physical only, and the list does go on. And so based on what I just said, I think it's pretty safe to say that I am keeping both of these points for replayability. And this gives us a final score of 6 out of 10 for reviewing Final Fantasy I Pixel Remastered for the PC. So this game is challenge run approved. I really try and strive to do challenge runs that no one has done of a game yet, so do feel free to check the description below for all of my past challenge runs as well as future challenge runs and review videos as they become available. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment, and share. And if you want to go above and beyond that, consider joining my Patreon or join my channel's membership via the join button next to my name below the video. And until then, I will catch you all in the next review. Bye bye.